Hi everybody, my name's Sarah Gibson and I'm really pleased to be back in this space with y'all again. I've only managed to have like a one in-person CW before, so it's really cool to be back here and seeing you all again. So yeah, my career so far. So I started off as an astrophysicist. I was working on gamma ray bursts and did my PhD at the University of Leicester. And this is where I started to build my own software, really. I'd done my integrated masters before this, and I'd left that being like, I don't want to code, which is kind of hilarious given where I am now. But I kind of like bit the bullet and I started learning Python during my PhD. And yeah, that code I wrote was not in any way reproducible, reusable, sustainable, or good. But I learned a lot. And the end of my PhD, I decided I never wanted to write a paper again. So I started looking on the job market, and I have a friend in Leicester who I owe many beers to, who forwarded me a job application for research engineering, data science, and software engineering at the Alan Turing Institute, because, well, I knew I didn't want to do research again, like the traditional research that I'd been trained in. I also didn't want to be in a company only caring about some CEO's bottom line. And I was introduced to this research software engineering career path that I know has been pioneered by people in this room, and I'm incredibly grateful for that. But I was incredibly green because I'd done so much self-learning in an unstructured way during my PhD. I actually remember on my first day at the Turing, Martin asking me, what's your GitHub handle so I can add you to the team? And I'm like, what's GitHub? So had to bring myself up to a lot of speed on that, on engineering principles and working as part of a team and working collaboratively and everything about that. And I also joined as a data scientist, because when you're an astrophysicist or even just a physicist, kind of like leaving the career, the thing you get told is that you're a data scientist. But again, I had another very great opportunity, which was I was able to do both data science and software engineering projects at the Turing. And what I learned that for me, software engineering is way more fun than data science. So I was able to grow and learn about what I enjoyed doing through all of that. One of the first projects I was put on at the Turing Institute was the Turing Way, which I'm sure many of you have heard about. At the time, it was a guide to reproducible research. I'm sure if any of you look it up now, you'll see it's become much more of that. And I thought, that's great. This project is going to teach me everything I need to know to be good at the new job that I just got. And Kirsty Whitaker, who's the co-PI, went, yes, but no, I would like you to go and hang out with Binder folks and figure out cloud computing. And so for a person who did not even know what Git was, it was now learn Kubernetes and Docker. And so that was like a 6-month fun ride on that. And it was also an introduction to Project Jupyter and the Jupyter Hub team, and radically working in open source and having to make very public statements about what should and shouldn't be in software. But from that, I learned all about how to share reproducible computational environments to kind of smooth the pathway to collaborative, open scientific research. And I ended up running a lot of workshops to kind of train people up on Binder and describing their computational environments. And then what happened was a lot of the Jupyter Hub team got together and created a nonprofit startup, because what we see is that the Jupyter Hub software is a critical piece of infrastructure to doing open research in a collaborative way. But as I know from having to learn Kubernetes, it's really hard to deploy and manage it. And so this nonprofit startup came into existence, of where we are providing a managed Jupyter Hub cloud-based service for research and education. But we're kind of experimenting in doing it in a completely transparent, open source to a point where we're trying to train people in Jupyter-based workflows for doing their research and education in the cloud, and we are doing it all upstream, open source. So this was very much like, this was the place I needed to be, really. This was combining all of my loves for open source and the team I was already a part of there. So I'm going to add a little caveat onto this, which is that, if you'll skip, yeah. I think it's very human for us when, whenever we're asked to give a presentation on our career timelines, that we do it in chronological order. And this gives the illusion that there is a plan. So if you were sat in this audience, whether in this room or online, and you're thinking, God, these people are like on it. The plan is, at least in my case, I wouldn't speak for my other panelists, but in my case, the plan is a lie. And I just, that's my advice to you, is if this is slightly anxiety, like, oh my God, I need to know what I want and what I need to do, is like, no, not really. And like, we didn't. So what did work for me? What did actually make it look like this was all planned? And there's two big things here. Oh, I skipped one. So first of all is mentorship. I believe everybody can benefit from mentorship at all points in your life. But like the type of mentorship and what you're being mentored on can change. And I also believe in the many mentors theory, because mentors are people too. They are not going to know all of the skills that you want to know, and they are also flawed, and unicorns just aren't real. There isn't a person who knows how to do everything. So you need to surround yourself with a collection of people that can help you get to where you need to be. And then the other thing that I think is really beneficial is cultures of learning and blamelessness. So the blameless culture isn't a new thing. I am technically what we call site reliability engineering now, and the idea of postmortems and retrospectives go a lot into blameless culture. And like, I heard Google published a book about it, but the idea that you blame a process, not the person, and then combine this with a culture of learning, which was one of the things that the Turing helped me a lot with as well, that actually you don't need to know all the skills to complete a project. It's fine if you're picking them up along the way. I think that really helps people grow and find what they're comfortable with, what they're interested in, where they might want to go next. So I know these are not necessarily things that you as individuals can do. Well, you can go out and find your mentors, but if you are in a position to be building teams, really think about the culture you are investing, because it will benefit the individuals in those teams as well. So what didn't work so much? At the minute, I am branching out into a community and strategic role, and like, that's different from someone who's been incredibly technical and code-based so far. It feels like a jacket that doesn't quite fit yet, and it taps into like a lot of unhelpful mental stuff that it takes more energy to keep a healthy mindset. So at the minute, I'm undecided if that pans out into like a long-term thing or not, or if it was a thing we tried once. But either way, that's not a failure, because hey, I just learned something about myself. Maybe strategy is not in my future, but I wouldn't have known that without trying. So overcoming challenges, I think the biggest one is imposter syndrome. And this comes back to the mentorship I mentioned earlier. How this manifested for me was that I surrounded myself with enough people telling me I could do things that eventually they didn't need to tell me out loud, because I could already hear them in my head. So it became much more of a feel the fear and do it anyway kind of feeling. But you need that support network to get you up to that point, I think, and just persevering whilst being embedded in that learning culture, that blamelessness culture. Advice, the first job search out of your PhD is the worst. It is truly awful. You are untested. You have no idea what you want, and you're just like, please, somebody pay me. But from then on, you're much more in control, right? You know, you're not staring down the, you're probably less likely to be staring down the end of like payment schedules and people telling you that if you leave academia it's a failure. Like, that just doesn't happen. You're a bit more in control of where you move, how you move, when you move. And also just that you'll get there, and that I don't actually think that I could be here today without going through all of that. And yeah, I just needed to do it to get to this version of myself. But I will add the caveat that Sarah at the time would be rolling her eyes so hard right now. But yeah, and then this is like a really meta quote at the bottom here, which is actually, I gave a careers talk to a mentorship group in Kenya a few weeks back remotely. And this is actually a piece of feedback one of the attendees gave to me about my talk on careers, which is, it's filled with trial and error and trying new things and sticking with them to find out where we belong. And I think that really encapsulates everything that I'd like you to take away today. So thank you very much.